Boo! Hello, everyone. Anyone. I don't know what's going on yet. I don't know what to bring you guys tonight, but I tell you what, I don't even know who's here, so here's what I'm going to do. Hello! I'm going to start with a bone heist, and let's see if I can do one today. We'll do 50. And why do I think I have to do that? I don't know. I forget. But I'm going to start a bone heist. Hello. Well, we had an early comment which doesn't show up anymore. I don't know why. It says fuck Asians. Let me say it again. Fuck Asians. I'm good with that. I like that idea. Some of them are cute. You know. I'm nothing against throwing them a bone. But your regularly scheduled program will be replaced with a shoot the crap stream, apparently. Thank you guys for submitting yourselves to the show, to the bots, to myself. I like pie. I too like pie. I make good pie. How are you doing today, Mediocrity's Maze? I've seen you before. Welcome back. I think I've seen you before. You look familiar. It's the chin. It's got to be the cleft of the chin. I think I recognize the chin. Oh, well. Moving on. I've apparently been sort of hired to do a banner, which I think is cool. So I'm gonna do something I don't usually do at the beginning of the show, but I'm gonna try and do it. There's a few channels that I hang out and shoot the crap with, so to speak. One of them is the Midnight Raven. I just recently started watching her. Sometimes calming content. A little on the goth side, but still to me mildly calming. Doesn't get too upbeat. Sort of relaxing to watch. I've been catching some of her videos. Another one that I jump on and chat with, as I did earlier tonight, is Bossman PR and the Flying Carrots. But and we have a wild fox. Jay Leno got the most recognizable chin of all time. Welcome. But I'm going to shout those two channels out. Raven, I jumped in one of her streams and I was just being me in the chat. You know, being a NumbedSkull, putting shit out there. And she said she was looking for, 302 subs. Congratulations, Nugs. I'm slowly headed that direction. She mentioned she was looking for a banner, so I decided to make a banner and send it her way, and she liked it. And then apparently her channel got reviewed, and somebody went to look at her channel and liked the banner and came to me for one. Now, I'm kind of happy with what I made for her channel, but it's one of those things where I know it could have been a little better if I'd have taken a few more minutes. I was just playing with something and threw it together. So it was a quick job that I just gave her. And then apparently somebody wanted to commission me to do one. I don't know what my work is worth, but I'm going to throw it out there. I was working on it earlier. I was working in the lab late one night, and I made something that I don't know what I did with. I want to say it's image 5. I could be wrong. Oh, that's the one. So I made this, and I will tell you to go check out this channel. I don't know if this is going to be the final art. I'm waiting for a response. Pardon all this hard work in the background. But this is what I made for his channel art. I'm quite proud of the PlayStation case. I thought I did a good job. So that's awesome. So what am I missing in chat? 302 subs. Damn, that much without videos. Send some my way. I will actually have some content. I got 19. Yay! Good job. 19's hard to do, believe it or not. It's hard to play Pocket Pool and Photoshop at the same time. It is. It's very hard. You know, one hand on the mouse, one hand on the dick. You can't hit the letters. You need to hit all at the same time. What do we got? Bobcat Miss Swifty. Welcome back. How you doing? I did read your comments aloud. Just putting it out there. Ruby Slippers. Hello, NumbedSkull. Hello, NumbedSkull. Damn, viewers think they're dealing. Oh, why am I reading you, bot? Fuck you. The only heterosexual here. Bobcat. Come on. I admitted I wanted to fuck Asians. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I don't know what this is worth. Honestly, I feel like it's missing a couple of things. We all know how the YouTube channel art works. It wants a certain size and then it condenses that down depending on the device. So hopefully I think I got everything within where the channel art condenses down primarily for the header. And his name should fit in there, most of the controller. I would like to put some art on the case, but I don't know what to put on the case. So I'm waiting for a couple of responses, see what he thinks. I may ditch the background behind the case and create like 4 more cases and just do a spread. But again, I don't know. I didn't say I wanted to keep them. I'm married. I just say I wouldn't mind, you know, putting it in him and thrusting hard various times and walking away. Make a 6-inch translucent penis with a skull at the head. Haven't I done something like that already? No. If not, maybe. We'll see how time progresses and what I end up doing next. What should we talk about, guys? Oh, you know what else? I suppose I could mess with the bots. I don't know if I feel like messing with bots, but we can play in the chat and see what happens. Let me get this fancy stuff I'm working on off the screen here. Like I said, though, I'm quite fond of the case. The PlayStation 4 case came out really nice. I don't even know what game it originally was. I just wiped the game out. I don't know if you guys can tell, but at the bottom, the rated E for everyone, I took out the trademark logo and it says everyone, E rated by someone instead of the NSRB or whatever it is. It just says rated by someone. Let's see. I'm gonna get drunk. That's a great idea. I don't have enough liquor left in my house to get drunk. So, I like random topics. Me too. You have 2 channels, do you now? I have a few channels myself. This is my primary one. One of my bots is another channel, and then I have my personal channel. That being said, what's next? I have some for you, Skull, but how are you gonna get it through the mic to the headphones? Wait, you don't have a mic. How are you gonna text me a drink in chat? This one has 5 subs. Wow, you won't be hungry. I also have beer. I'm not a beer drinker. I really don't like true Mexican beer. I'm not much for lager. It's a little too thick. Homebrew lager, even worse. Homebrew dandelion whiskey is pretty good. Whiskey's okay. I should not drink more than a few shots of whiskey. Anything more than a few shots of whiskey will be a violent, dangerous, and destructive night for someone or multiple people. I'm surprised I haven't gone to jail for, let me clarify that. I'm surprised I haven't gone to jail for drinking whiskey. However, if I stick to the clear alcohols like the vodka and the moonshines, oh, I miss real moonshine, I do really good. Although I get very drunk very quick and do stupid things. Hi, I'm the NumbedSkull. I do stupid things when I drink stupid alcohol. Hey, look, a 5th. You got any more? 62. Ah, got me a wrench back. Feels back. Wait, feels back at home. That's right, you're at home. You're at home in the chat, where the bots are always being a brat. Hey, Sasuke, how you doing? Tequila. Ooh, me do some tequila. Chase the worm. Let's say, if you did not put a Z on that, or the exclamation TA, I believe it would have called a bot command. If I'm not wrong, let's do that. Hello, Dark Sasuke. Why am I typing to nothing? There's no. There it is. Hello, Dark Sasuke. That's the only way I can learn how to spell it, is to say it wrong. Maybe? Am I wrong? Okay, hello triggers the sit down, shut up. And a few others. But where's the one? I forget what triggers the... There's a bot command for Sasuke. Or maybe I'm only 30. I'm only 35. But I don't... Here's an interesting topic of conversation. Somebody mentioned it to me the other day. They were asking how old I was. And I said 35. She goes, so you're not middle-aged yet. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you figure? I know the age expectancy is in the 80s for most people, so you can kind of expect to live to that point. Now, let's take into consideration health and family genealogy. Most of my family hasn't lived to 70 on one side. On the other side, 80 to 90. So I have the possibility to live into about 70 or so. Now, being a smoker, if I don't quit, well, it's going to be less than that. So at 35, aren't I already at about middle age? Now, I've already had those stupid thoughts about, like, what do I need to do, what's left to set up, and, you know, what else is left to do in life. And that stresses you out a bit sometimes. Don't do that till you get old. Don't buy a sports car. Although I bought my wife a sporty car. I already have a sports car. I just gotta fix it. Rambling. Why am I rambling? We need to do another bone heist. Don't you guys all think we need to do another bone heist? And I think I'm gonna go for another 50. What the? I'm not doing something right. Bone heist. 50 enter. Yeah. That's how we do this. We're gonna do a bone heist, guys. Who's ready to go rob the bone jar? So you remember the commands, do you, Nugs? Wow. 5 hours. It has been a while. I know you've been in and out, but that's okay. Now, there's another thing I'm noticing that I'm not liking, and I have to double check the other bot, the one that Nugs was just tapping into there. I have 2 bots to try and figure out how to reward people for watching, how to do the games in the chat and things like that. And I'm working on constructing one. I think I don't really want to use the Jeopardy board or make a copy and rewrite it and have that issue in my computer to potentially run the wrong one. But if I have to, I will rewrite it and make a totally different board out of it. It might be somewhat similar, and that bothers me. But I'm working on a game that's going to be chat interactive. So everybody in the chat is going to be able to do the things like press P in the chat, and every time you press P, it'll take like 5 bones from you, and it'll add P to the vote for what the answer is or should be. And playing and manipulating... I admittedly, and I'll tell you this to start, when you make a game show, you think it's an easy thing to do. That, you know, you set it up, you have the layout, you have the design, you play through the game show. And I'll tell you, anybody else who's also done it realizes that for your concept to create the game and then play the game through, that changes. For instance, did you know most people don't play Monopoly correctly? They misread the rules and play differently, or they change rules or play on rules that they were told, not that are in the rule book. So it's very easy to have a concept and an idea for a game, but it not to follow through. And to create the great debate, which I think for my channel has been in the long run a slight success, but maybe not what people are actually looking for. I think adapting and using the bots and the paraphernalia, the peripherals that I have connected to my channel to add to the game and make it more interactive for the chat, that will help make it more fun for you, I think. I hope, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bot responses in the chat, but I hope the bot responses are what you guys appreciate, are part of why you come to my channel. I hope I might be a small part of it. Maybe like 40% of listening to me might be why you come to my channel. And then after that, maybe 30% bots, 15% games, 15% laughter. I honestly don't know. You guys are here and I appreciate that. I don't honestly understand 100% why. And I'll assign arbitrary, irrational numbers to such until such time that I'm proven wrong. Which could be any time, I don't know. But I am working on something. We will have more fun on this channel because I kind of want to steer towards games and the interactive bit that my channel's kind of... Stop chain smoking cigarettes. Oh, I can't stop chain smoking cigarettes. I do that too. You know what a good idea is? I tend to just sit there and not light it, and I'll sit there with it in my mouth so long that eventually the butt will collect enough spit that I'll set it down to dry and grab another one and do the same thing. And sometimes I can go a couple hours without lighting it. That helped me undo that for a while. Fuck the bots. I'm a legit paid streaming moderator on another platform. Bots are my enemy. Well, Nugs, I can't afford to pay you to whore yourself out like my bots do for free. I'm sorry. That's a lot of money. That's a scary amount of money. Yeah, TA, it's actually one of the ways I help cut back. I used to smoke a pack and a half, almost 2 a day. The first time, or one of the recent times I drastically cut back, one of the things I did was sit there and basically hold and chew on the filter of the cigarette. I'd light part of it, just let it sit there. It would kind of go out, and then I'd just sit there with it in my mouth, and you get a little flavor for a while, and then eventually you'd soak the filter and put it down, let it dry, and grab another cigarette, light the end of it. It would just go out. And I'm back at a pack a day. I'm trying to go back down. I was at a half a pack just a couple months ago, but financial stresses and running into problems every time I turn around with the house that I bought. I mean, I kind of knew I was getting into the issues I was getting into, but I didn't expect them to go so quick. But hey, for anybody on my channel, personal good news, and I apologize for the lack of content the last few days because I've been stressing out over my water heater. So I'll tell a quick story. I had a standard household indoor 40-gallon hot water heater. It was so old, I remember it being installed when I was like 8 or 9, which, wow, that water heater lasted a long time. But it started leaking a little over a week ago, and it was leaking through the seals at the top of the filter, which means the casing on the inside was starting to leak, that there was a crack in one of the fixtures on the inside of the hot water heater. So I shut off the water and just used it intermittently to get showers, wash dishes, and do laundry real quick, and then turn it back off. That lasted for about 5 days till something finally completely blew on the inside, and it just started pouring water out whenever I turned it on. So I had to shut the unit off, take it out. Since it was an old unit, there was no drain. I had to take it out full without pouring it all over my house. Now, I had the option to go replace the unit with a newer one and upgrade to code the gas lines with the sediment trap, put the new lines on. Would have cost me about $460 for the unit and another 30 or 40 bucks, bringing me to at least $500 or more for parts in the unit to install a new hot water heater. Everybody who's owned a house or who's been in a house for a long period of time knows that this struggle happens. It's a pain in the ass. You don't deal with it often, but you do deal with it. I decided, though it wasn't the best short-term option, that I was going to order an on-demand hot water system because I couldn't find one in the store. So I prepped and ordered one for little under $250 after tax, free shipping, and had it sent to my house. So for less than half the price of what the hot water heater for about half the price of what the hot water heater would have cost me, I got an on-demand unit that runs on the same, everything fits my service. I didn't have to change any fittings or anything like that. They told me installation would be $600 to $700 starting price plus whatever. And I was like, nope. Not hiring somebody to do a job that I have the tools and the moderate know-how to do. So I installed it myself and spent roughly $250 or so, maybe $275, somewhere between $250 and $275 on parts. And I brought everything up to code in the system. I put in all the parts the unit's instruction manual recommended for the unit. I did everything the way it said. I replaced the socket nearby on the wall and brought the socket up to code. It's one of my only sockets that's GCFI in the house. It's one of the few, if not the only socket that's completely well grounded in the house. So I did a lot of work for roughly the same cost, if not a little bit less than it would have cost me to just replace the unit with another same thing. Bonus, to replace the hot water heater with an on-demand unit means the hot water doesn't heat up unless I turn the water on and turn it up to a certain level. So once I spent 5 or 6 hours messing with running the water in different parts of the house and getting the settings in the dial, because it's not all digital, the dial to adjust it, the 2 dials, which don't work the way you originally think they would. Once you get everything adjusted, though, it is pretty nice. Long term. Alright, so I discussed short term. I did save a little bit of money and a lot of time, but long term, apparently it'll save me 30% or so on my gas bill from the hot water heater. So if you have to switch out, do it. Find one. There's one online that's like $250 with tax, and it's awesome. It's on the Home Depot site, and I don't like Home Depot. All right, let's go up here. We got white women are the most beautiful women. Know how, man. No, wait. Wait, why is this? Oh, that's this vibrating. White woman started acting ghetto. I quit cold turkey after getting a sore throat that wouldn't go away. It lasted about 2 weeks, and every time I took a drag, it burned like mad. Yeah, that'll happen if you smoke too much. It will scare the shit out of you. I've had that. That's part of why I've been trying really hard to quit. But again, it's hard. The last time I quit cold turkey, it lasted 3 days. And then on the 3rd day, I was starting to feel terrible. And I had a couple of cigarettes. Then they made me feel worse. I walked away. It was just... It's hard. Water heaters are hard to fix by yourself. They're not once you've done a couple. The first 1 or 2 you do are probably difficult. After that, they're easy. Also, NumbedSkull, this is the worst mod job I've ever had, and I work with Mod Squad 3 years, but I pay you. Can I be honest, Nug, since you brought that up? I've been on YouTube for 1.5 years. I've made, not taking out fees, $127. So I really appreciate every dollar that you have given me out of that. And I can't tell you how much it's helped me on weeks that I'm a little short. I transfer a little bit over at a time and get through a couple of days. It appears not much of a mechanic, but I can take it apart and usually put it back together. I'm actually going to take the hot water heater apart and try to find out how much copper and brass are in it and scrap everything out individual. The casing's aluminum, so I'm going to see what I can get out of that. And then I'll junk the rest in the trash. I'll figure it out and take it apart and do that. Poor NumbedSkull. No, well, yeah, a little. Not poor. Financially tight. Very, very tight. Welcome, Nike Air. How are you doing today? Also, I see Data. Welcome. Hey, bud. I understand. You're not really missing anything. I can't hold anything against you. I missed a couple of days this week with this whole water heater issue. So, he's going to take my wrench. Don't worry. Who's going to take your wrench? Malachi, if I didn't say hello, welcome. Don't worry, I get paid on the 5th. I'm not asking you to pay me. I'm not. Honestly, preferably over just donating to Streamlabs, I've got a wife beater, a coffee cup, and a pillow. So, I'm working on new things when I get a chance to design some new ideas. Data Buttland, hey. Hey, hey, hey. What you doing being mean to the data? He overslept. He was on somebody's computer for an extra few hours. They wouldn't give up. They watched so many porn channels it deteriorated the hard drive. You sure can, buddy. Let me make that happen. Since I haven't yet. So there's that. And then I guess I need to put this string of things here, over here. Oh, look, you messaged me there too. I didn't see that. That's what happens when you have a huge screen. You can't look at the whole thing at once. Now, let's make sure that everything's crispy. Crispy. Why would I say crispy? Crunch. Why is Hangouts so slow? So, guys, what is it everybody would like to talk about today? And now we have data. I love supporting my small streamers that get overlooked in the mess. I like supporting a reason for you to spend your money. I have to check my audio settings and see why I can't hear data talking. Voice meter input there is good. That's good. That's good. Let me check the settings on Google.
It's me.
Hey, you're there. Everything's good?
It was my mute button.
Oh, it was your mute button. I was watching you pop up, but I didn't see anything or hear anything. Hear no evil, see no evil. Something.
So what's up?
Nothing. But Lemugs, if you wanna spend your money and get something I think is mildly cool, I have this pillow. Let me see if I can get it.
It's not a pillow. It's not a pillow. It's a $30 scream muffler.
Okay, I can almost go with that, but I forget what I named it for the purposes of selling it. It's a expensive dumb pillow, I think is what I called it. I've only got 3 items so far anyways, but want a bone. Yeah, it's for a 15 by 15 inch pillow for $30. I could go to Walmart, buy one for $5 and just spray paint my skull over it somehow. I don't know.
Is it cotton?
I'm not sure.
Is it 100% cotton?
If you want to find out, there's a link in the description. I haven't added it to the bot yet. That's probably a good idea later. It's on my Streamlabs. I don't know how that all works yet, but I tried a few things in their store to see what they're like.
Hello, Bobcat McSwifty. Glad to see you alive.
We are glad to see everyone is alive. Unless you're dead and still joining us, in which case we're just glad to see you're joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, honestly,
I'm not exactly sure what happened. So your water heater exploded?
Oh, yeah, something on the inside cracked and my water heater kind of started leaking and then blew and started water fountaining all over my floor. So I replaced it with an on-demand hot water system for the same price as replacing the hot water heater. Now I call that efficient.
And now you have a closet.
No, because the hot water heater was literally 3 inches from one wall and 2 inches from the other, and this unit isn't huge, but where the vent work and all the lines are, I'm going to put like a little floor cage in and then like something to hold handles from knocking into the unit, but I still need to be able to have access and see it.
Gotcha.
It has a temperature readout of the outbound water. So if it's a really hot day and the water in the house sitting in the pipes and coming out of the ground is warmer, I have to turn the burner down a little bit. But if it gets cold outside,
it doesn't self-adjust.
This is not, no, I did not buy anything top of the line. I didn't buy anything cool. I have to do an adjustment on the burner. So one knob is the burner and one knob is the kick-in. I have the kick-in turned most all the way up so it kicks on almost as soon as you turn the water on. On the burner side, I was messing with it, and if you turn it too far too fast, not even halfway up on the scale it gives you, took the water to 152 degrees. Ouch.
Why is a wild fox appeared dead inside?
Because of my comment, if you're dead and still joining us, that's okay. We're glad to have you.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks. So, but you're also lucky because I've heard situations where the water heater will leak out and then it'll superheat and then it'll rocket itself through the roof.
Um, on a 25, 30-year-old water heater, I believe it. I believe if I'd have pushed it a little bit more, I would have had that kind of problem. So,
And
but
by the way, there isn't much to salvage in a water heater, but I have seen a video where a guy took the water heater tank and turned it into a barbecue.
really,
Yeah.
well, hold on. I can do one of two things. I can take it up as straight scrap, maybe get $2 out of it if I'm lucky, okay? Or I can take the aluminum casing off the outside and get maybe $2 just for that. There's brass piping. In this one, it's an older model that self cleans, supposedly. And it has a brass curvature pipe on the inside that spins and coils around the inside to help the water circulate better and stay warmer. Doesn't work
Weird.
as efficiently but as the one I have. But if I take it out and it's all brass or copper lines on the inside, and I just cut out all the clamps and couplers in between, you're talking making 20 or $30 off of that.
Yeah.
And then I can afford to just run to the dump and get rid of the parts that I can't turn into metal. Yes, I could also turn it into a moon sign still if I didn't think it had old, rusty, sedimentary water in it from 25, 30 years of use.
Yeah, depending on, I mean, depending
TA,
on,
are you a woman? I have to ask with the I self clean. Because I just left a conversation about self cleaning vaginas on Director Arciter's channel a couple hours ago.
self-cleaning vaginas.
Yes, vaginas are naturally self cleaning. Don't use a cucumber or Vicks or wasps. No. Then you clean yourself. You don't self clean. You're talking making 100, 150 a gallon. Yeah. Not a woman. That's okay. You don't have to be a woman, but never mind. Moving on.
So the last we spoke, you were still trying to come up with an idea for the show,
I was, and I kind of almost had an idea to rehash QAnon, but
right?
with
I was going
working
to
on,
ask you. I was going to ask you what you ran across that you wanted to rehash it.
it's not so much what I ran across. It was a good old laugh that I've just absolutely gotten this week watching clips from mainstream media news organizations.
Oh yeah, they really came down hard,
They're
huh?
going nuts.
Yes, yes.
And some have used irrational, and I have to say I forget exactly what. I've watched a lot of clips because I've been finding this hysterical. Pardon me. They're using a lot of rhetoric that you and I really didn't discuss on the show. And they're using some things that I kind of said as a rebuttal, and some things we've kind of tossed back and forth about how and where and what that would entail, where he would be. And I thought maybe rehashing the QAnon. Now you know a little bit more than I do. Maybe we could even, a little planning. So next week, as one option, QAnon rehash. I'll gather some more clips of the media, and we'll get a good laugh.
It was there was a scary point for the QAnon crowd because after July 4th, Q stopped posting. And he stopped posting throughout the entire month of July and just started, I think, right at the beginning of August or at the end of July. So there was a little scare there because people weren't sure. He has, on occasion, not posted for a few weeks, but this was already getting to the point where it was the longest point where he had not been posting, or they had not been posting, or
A
she
wild
had.
fox. If you look at I'll send you to Data's channel. I get views and I appreciate it, but run to Data's channel after our show today and check out our show about QAnon. We tried to bring it up lighthearted like I do on any show, just mildly discuss it as conversation format. But we go over a few things.
Wild Fox, I would actually, if you want a primer on Q, a really good video to watch would be Q, the Plan to Save the World.
Yeah.
If you look that up and just watch that video, it'll kind of give you an idea of where everybody's head's at and what the whole story is with this Q.
It is kind of confusing. It's elaborate. I can justify and, talk through most of the points, but there are a few things that still leave me like, I don't know how do you justify it. It's open-ended. It could be in a few different directions. And that's the same thing the news started covering, is that, it's cryptic enough that you don't know if he's actually in the government or if it's somebody just doing...
Well, and again, anything you hear on the mainstream news about it, you would think the truth is the exact opposite. So
yeah, but if they know nothing, if they know no more than we do, and they're reporting the same thing we are, then I can assume that since we did it a few weeks ago and they're doing it now, I can assume that if our reports are the same, that either we've both been led in the same direction or we both get the same assumptions.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, to say the least, and it's also giving a lot of people that are very into Trump a lot of mileage.
Okay, so here's something I didn't think about that I did catch out of the news. Damn it, I didn't set this up. Why? You joined me late.
We weren't really going to talk about. Well, this was a very, very duct tape.
Impromptu. Yeah. I duct taped the show together and it's going to work. Something they brought up and I didn't think of when we did the show is the idea of Q. Maybe it's not something they brought up. Maybe it's something I caught during watching something. Is the idea of Q being presented to the public finally in such a big affirmation on the Trump side almost looks like, I don't know, democratic socialists on the Democrat side. And I'm kind of at a curious point where I'm now questioning, is it a ploy that somebody set out to do to defame this side?
Right. In other words, a strike back.
You see what I'm saying? Almost it's like, okay, well, we'll toss this bunch of information out. We'll pretend to be on his side and create the dilemma.
There will be major, major, major salt and tears the day it comes out that this is all a bunch of baloney.
Oh yeah,
and oh man, then you'll see some real reality shattering.
But sadness. That brings me to another point. I wanted to do kind of like, we'll call this the duct tape show, but I kind of wanted to do like a hash out show, talking about. There is a point where in a lot of the things we discuss, the different topics we bring up are kind of like populace following topics. Like people follow this idea. And you almost have to wonder, again, going back to the point I just made, do people create the idea to be followed and create the hysteria? Or are they actually trying to release information?
The thing is, he releases enough information at certain times that makes it very, very plausible that he's for real. But then again, you have situations where you have, like Trump signing that new thing where he lifted the ban on GMOs and some really bad pesticides being used in national parks. I
I
mean,
didn't
where
see
the
that
hell's
yet.
that? It's like, on one hand, is he this master, a 5-level chess player, a white hat in charge of this global good guys gang that are going after the globalists, or is this all a big, huge friggin' fantasy that is going to come crashing down, and all these people that are believing in this dream are going to be shattered?
Did you guys like that? I worked for an hour on that, and I'm not
Oh,
happy with it, but it was cool.
that was very nice.
Oh, I was trying to do that, and then at some point I was like, I'm not getting hold of him. I have to change direction and prepare for something slightly different. So I did start working on some official stuff for the show today. That's all I have.
Did you like that? Did you like that comedy link I sent you?
Some of it, honestly, because maybe it's the level I think at, and you have to apologize, guys. Not trying to be conceited or anything, but I know, I understand, and people remind me sometimes that I think and see things differently than other people do. Some of that was just before I wanted to laugh, but I get that. That was cool. And then other ones, I'm just like, that was fucking stupid. So it was all right.
The guy's voice is hysterical. He's like a guy of 1,000 voices. And to tell the chat, I ran across this channel called Sorrow TV, and he basically, goes around the internet looking at chat sessions and Twitter sessions and adverts and whatnot, and then he reads them, but he reads them in funny voices and whatnot, and puts a story behind them. And I mean, I hadn't laughed so hard in a long time.
Pasta on a fork. What was the one where
The
wing was
art,
crooked, the wing was bigger than the other, and the muscle on one side was bigger than the other, and the drawing looked like it was done by a 10-year-old, and they wanted like $10,000.
yeah, I liked the one, the cubes, the purple cubes
Oh,
for $6,000. There were
does not
150
include
of them, all
installation.
different sizes. Installation not included.
I thought that was awesome. I was thinking to myself when I saw that, shit, I've got wood here. I'm going to make a bunch of cubes and holes on one side, put little anchors in it, and you can just screw them into the wall.
13 or what was it? $35,000 for art piece. Shipping included.
You know what I have to say after watching a bunch of people try to sell 10-year-old art for $10,000 is I don't feel as bad selling a shitty Wanna-Bone pillow for $30.
There you go.
You know, it's things like that that kind of make me feel $30 isn't so bad then. You know, it looks better and it's less. That's a deal. How can you go wrong buying a pillow? Something to put your head on, something to rub on. I don't know what you want to use it for. Don't tell me. Just buy it. Pillow. Product. Also, this is weird. So, I don't know. Other people here watch Cog, and I enjoy Cog. I like the way his cup works, but I don't want to use that. I think I want to fill this cup by the end of the year, but I'm not sure because it did a glitch on me the other day, and it went from the way it was to having one in it. And I'm not sure if and when it resets, if it does it before I make it do it, or how it does that. So, my goal is to fill this cup by the end of the year, if not sooner. And the way to fill the cup is subscribers. Donations get the skulls with no backgrounds. Subscribers get the skulls with backgrounds. I just want to get enough subscribers mostly to fill this cup. That should get me close to what I need to get near doing some sort of AdSense and putting like 5-second commercials on and making a penny every 1,000 videos. Maybe I'll get somewhere. Farts for $20. I'll put it in a jar. Shipping is not free. But yes, we'll sell farts for $20. If you really want one, I have jars in the back. 2 for $50. There you go. Wait, what are you buying 2 for 50? Uh, we need new side
Oh,
couch
he's
pillows.
saying for the pillow,
Oh,
$30
honestly,
for one, 2 for 50.
do you know what I did for the store I went through, and whatever it would allow me to put in as the minimum price is what I put in on everything. So that's why I was kind of appalled that the wife beater is $25. The pillow is 30.
What
The coffee
what's
cup is 18.
what store is that?
This is the Streamlabs store. I thought I'd just try it out.
Oh, okay. Because
Um,
Satsu 2 cents.
yeah.
I was looking at some of his stuff, and I suggested he switch his store because he's got coffee cups in there that aren't dishwasher safe.
Apparently the products that Streamlabs sells, from what I can glean, which means what I can gather from what little I've consumed, is that they are higher quality products. It looks like the mug
Yeah, I
was.
mean,
I think the mug was dishwasher safe. Plus, I upped it. It's not the 12-ounce mug. It's the 15-ounce mug, and it's $18.
I like 100% cotton, not these cotton poly blends. I like, dishes and cups that you can actually put in the dishwasher.
And I think if I order the cup, it still cost me like 13.50 or yeah, 13.50 or 14.02 or something like that. I can't reduce the price any lower. I'd be happy getting $1 per product I sold, because then I'd be hoping I could sell more products, because that would be my logic. But it won't let me go any lower. But I'm trying to see about finding. I've been watching people when they discuss what sites are better to sell products on, and I've been trying
what
to.
kind of car? What kind of car are you buying your dad on the 15th?
A car. Ooh.
Yeah, he's buying one pillow a month, and he's buying his dad a car.
One a month. They are cool pillows. I'm gonna design a couple of different ones, but I like the way I did the one a bone, and I wanted to get it on a product, so that it ended up on a pillow. And I thought that would be appropriate if you put a couple in the bedroom and you bring a girl in, and you got like a pillow on your bed that says "want a bone." I thought that
Ugh.
insinuates something.
So classy.
Yeah, that wasn't the C word I was looking for, but okay. I'll go with corny. Kind of corny.
So
But yeah.
what else?
What
you
else?
you wanted to do QAnon, but what else were you thinking about?
Oh, honestly, I don't even know. I've been watching this. I sat Wednesday or Tuesday. I sat down and watched a bunch of the. Maybe it was Wednesday, because there's been more coming out. This Cortez girl from New York City, and how she's going with Bernie on the campaign trail, and some of the interviews she sat down at, and how interviewers on both sides have picked apart her argument. Have you watched any of this? I know sometimes you don't catch the same material
I
I
was
do.
reading Nug's answer. What were you saying?
This and whatever Cortez girl from New York City, the Democratic Socialist from New York City, I've been
Right.
trying to watch some of the content she's been in, because she's been on late night shows. She's been doing the Run with Bernie this week and a few
Right.
other things. And I seem to notice that both sides are tearing her apart on her economic principles and standpoints. It's not just the left or the right or Democrats and
You
Republicans,
know,
and you know how hard I have a time assigning sides to this.
you
But
know, the thing
everybody's
is,
tearing her policies apart.
you can always look at anything and find flaws and problems. And you also, when it comes to economics, to be honest, nobody can tell the future. The best economics or economists um, will tell you that they have no clue what the hell they're talking about.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely agree.
and
So
and
how?
whatever plan you do isn't in an island. In other words, whatever happens there is going to be cause and effect. So you can't just like look at today and apply a plan over it and go, this is what's going to happen. Because A, you really don't know. And B, there's going to be automatic changes as the plan goes into motion. So that's going to completely change the face that you're used to.
So I'm now Gary and not Boris anymore. We'll work on that. The problem I see with the process is this is as a homeowner, as a consumer, even if I don't have to deal with her directly, if she ends up in Congress, I think is what she's running for, 13 seat in Congress. If she ends up getting in there and writing some legislation and that legislation doesn't benefit me, then now it hurts me. Now I have no choice over whether or not she gets in because I'm nowhere near her district because New York City sucks. She's going to write something that's going to affect everybody. And the things that she wants to write is implementing a carbon tax, implementing a something else tax, increasing the amount of another tax, taking $7 billion away from the government military.
I just thought of
their whole budget.
I just thought of an idea that we haven't really discussed that we really should.
What's that?
Global warming.
How dare you? Yeah, maybe we should.
Because I grew up believing people, but looking into it more and more, I'm having major doubts. And people are so rabid believers of global warming, they won't even listen to reason.
Okay, now, here's the only thoughts. This is the thought that leaves me in between, okay? Now, on science's side, declaring that global warming is a huge issue, what they use is ice layers in the Arctics. And in the Arctics, the ice layers usually form season by season. So the sun comes over the Arctic and shines most of the day for a period of time. And that usually melts the topmost layer down into a hardened layer. When the sun moves away, it hardens back up and adds to the layers. The sun comes back over 6 months later, does it again. It sweeps to the other side and hardens at 6 months. And these are how they measure the layers. So the years that we've been through these cyclical events of heating and cooling at the poles. Now, this can be not necessarily changed, but if we hit a very warm summer where the poles aren't necessarily at freezing temperatures, that could add another layer of hardened sediment, of hardened ice into each packed layer that would account for necessarily maybe a year's worth of pack, but we could get 2 or 3 of those in a year depending on climate seasons. And this is the argument that the anti-global warming, and it's also partially an argument of Christians that, you know, you can't necessarily go by the number of layers that you count because there's inaccuracies in science that can account for that, and I agree. However, at the same time, we right now are seeing what appears to be one of the largest depletions of our Arctic areas. The cold and frozen areas are depleting faster than they're being created. So in the cold seasons, they're not accruing as fastly as they're dissipating when they crack up in the warm seasons.
You sure about that?
Well, in the areas that are being popularly monitored. Again, I haven't really dug into this, and we probably should.
Clipping those videos where you see the cliffs of ice fall off into the ocean?
No. I'm talking about long-term 10 and 15-year studies where they can show you year by year progression and recession of ice shields as they're moving out of Arctic and cold areas and receding into colder areas.
I don't know. I just
Now,
ran across a graph. I just ran across a graph showing actually the poles having more ice now than they had in the last 15 years.
so here's a question. Also, take into account a little other scientific thought that knowing they're receding and moving in some areas, and also you can account for another graph that would say that they're building. We also have to account for the fact that our poles, our north and south pole, are not in the exact same place they were when
Pole
ice
shift.
shields necessarily built.
Absolutely right. Pole shift. There's gonna be some type of weather. If we believe that weather is connected to electrical, connected to the sun, is connected to the magnetics, then our poles weakening and shifting would definitely have a reaction to the weather. And I'm not saying that climate isn't changing. Climate changes all the time. I mean, we're coming out of an ice age, so we are getting warmer and warmer. I mean, that's just a
Who's to say?
normal aspect. But at the same time, we're also having all these volcanoes blow up, and who's to say that's not going to cool us off for the next few years? I mean, that's the thing.
The late 1800s,
so
early
big.
1900s. We've sort of discussed this.
The complaints the climate deniers are having is this. If you have a computer model and it's accurate, then you should be able to move that model backwards in time and forwards in time, and it should always be right. And it isn't. And they've been tweaking these models forever, and it's never been right. Second argument is, since when in science has there been a vote on what's real and what isn't? It is science isn't a popularity contest. I mean, if you think about it, all the major changes in science were usually led by one guy who was literally crucified, put in jail, beaten to death. But he knew what he was saying was true, and eventually it was science that accepted his theory.
I have to think about it this way. If the planet is even mildly warming, volcanoes would react, right? They're going to explode. The volcanic reaction, I want to say it was 1903. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 1803. There's a recorded event in Canada and another one in Britain where they went a day where one of them went 1 day, one went 3 days without sun because of a volcanic eruption. And the following summer was an extended winter that flowed all the way through the following year.
I think it was the blowing up of Mount Pinatubo in the Fijis or something, or in the Philippines.
Something like that. There's another one that was up towards where Alaska is.
They had 3 years of winter.
Right. You're thinking of the one I am. The Philippines is the one that affected Britain for 3 years. There was one up in northern Canada or Russia that affected northern Canada for a year. And they had an extended winter through summer. 3 years in Britain and a year in Canada over volcanic eruptions.
Now, I mean, understand too. I may now doubt the whole climate change hysterics, because I personally remember in the 70s that when this first started, they weren't talking about global warming. They were actually talking about coming of a new ice age. Now, be that as it may, I may not believe in the idea of man is destroying the climate as a whole and eventually will cook us off the planet. But I do believe that man is polluting the crap out of the planet. I do believe that a corporation that has a choice between saving $100,000, dumping some crap that'll be there forever, and getting a fine for $75,000 for doing it, they'll do it every single time. That I do believe in. So I may be a climate change denier, but I don't believe the EPA is a redundant department of the government.
I honestly, I don't want to say necessarily denier. Let's think about it this
Well,
way.
I'm using
I
I'm
don't
using the
think
term I'm using the term as one would in the general vernacular.
I don't think that we've necessarily impacted the environment as a human species as a byproduct of our existence, not necessarily our personal existence, the CO2 that we personally exhale. I don't think that as a byproduct of our existence in our industrial revolution that we've expelled enough gas to change the planet so drastically that it hasn't already
Well,
done on its own. However,
the thing,
when
the
you look
thing
at
is,
LA and China, or is it Japan? How do you account
China.
for that? China.
What, the bad smoke?
The smog, the clouds that
Yeah,
stay around the city.
they have absolutely no. For California, it's because of where they're located. They're located in a valley. They get a breeze in from the ocean, so it basically is a big cup that holds all their pollution in. For China, they're just producing pollution on bulk, on mass. I mean, and they'll do it too.
Yeah, and it's
They
hard.
have no they have no EPA over there, that's for sure. And I remember the day when our rivers caught fire.
Yeah, Michigan.
Okay, a lot of the people on the internet have no idea about this, but we had pollution in the United States that was so bad, there wasn't a single river you would dare even stick your toe into, and these rivers caught on fire on multiple occasions, and they couldn't be put out; they would be let to burn.
Yeah, because it would burn the contaminants back out of the water.
Great, and into the air.
Well, yeah, but isn't that what we do a lot? I'm keen on recycling. I used to burn a lot of trash and stuff, and at this point, I recycle 3 times as much as I throw in the trash. And I only throw things away if absolutely necessary, or if
Listen,
it's so messy it's not worth
there's no
recycling.
there's no downfall for recycling. Anything that can be kept out of the damn um, uh, what are those mountains of garbage, the better.
What's gonna happen in, let's call it 500, 1,000 years, when they look back at the garbage that we've decided to do in the late 1900s and early 20th century? When they look back at these literal mountains and hills, that I'm not kidding you, in 500 and 1,000 years, these hills are gonna biodegrade on the inside, and somebody's gonna go to do something, and it's just gonna crumble.
It's that's a funny line. You got to read what Nugget just said.
My butt makes pollutants so bad you can't dip your toe in this. That's probably very true. What a weird thing to say, says Bobcat. But I try to think about what's going to happen to these landfills when the items that are put in there, like rotted wood, plastic that will take 500-600 years to decay.
50 years from now, God is my witness, 50 years from now, people will be mining those fields looking for stuff to recycle, looking for stuff that's worth something.
Oh, well, maybe 100.
Yeah.
Maybe
The
100.
thing is that it's so disgusting to pile garbage up like that. I mean,
all right, so we have to ask the question: do you personally intend to make garbage? When I buy things, I make an intent not to buy things in styrofoam whenever possible.
there you go. And when I buy food, I don't buy it in cardboard boxes. In other words,
No, cardboard boxes is great. Where I am, I recycle all cardboard, corrugated,
no,
waxed.
what I'm saying is I try not to buy like the processed food in boxes. If you're going to buy food, just buy food, vegetables, meat, cheese, food.
Also, I reuse almost every dish that comes with products that I buy until the dishes are not reusable, and then I recycle them.
Oh, little jars and stuff. Yeah, I have a
Oh,
little
butter
box
dishes,
full of jars.
sandwich meat dishes, cottage cheese dishes. You never make like a macaroni salad and you get like a 16-ounce cottage cheese dish, fill it up with macaroni salad, take it to
If
work. It's
you have
perfect.
if you have like a workbench and whatnot, the greatest thing that I do, I take the little peanut butter containers, you know, the peanut butter jars,
Yeah.
and you peel the label off. You screw the cap to the underside of a shelf,
Yep.
and then you put screws and whatnot in the clear plastic jar, and then you just put it right into the cap and turn it, and it's there.
I did
So
that
not
with
only
baby
can
food
you see it,
jars.
you can see it, you can grab it with one hand, you can look through it, and you can put it back. All you know.
I did that with baby food jars all the time. I saw it in a movie from the 80s, and I made this little board, and I just screwed 10 caps of baby food jars on it and hung the board sideways on the wall, and then made another one and hung it underneath. And then every time I started collecting a whole bunch of something, I'd put it in a baby jar and attach it to the little run. So whenever I went looking for something, I just look up there and then grab the jar and go do the job, put the jar back when I got done. It works perfect. But you got to put 2 screws in the lid. 2 screws. Or 1 peg in a screw. You don't know how many times I went to try and pull a jar off and it'll just sit there and spin on 1 screw. So I learned my lesson.
How depressing.
You can grab one a hand ace through it here since it ain't there. The nugs, yep, it's called sepsis. Shot in the gut. Alright. What is left to talk about on this fine evening for our ever so happily self-indulgent chat? Having a blast. They're not even talking about global warming or recycling. That's what we're talking about, and they're talking about YouTube Jesus and oh look,
Penis.
TA recycles like a boss.
So buttons.
So buttons. I do that. I need to do that. I have 2 pairs of shorts my son's to fix. Global warming is a lie. Is it a lie or is it just over dramatized?
Or is it just another way for the elites to tax us?
There's another thing. If they issue a carbon tax, you are basically, from working as a manager in a company, there's something called the carbon footprint that you get told about. I was an energy captain in charge of recycling and stuff. There's a carbon footprint you're told about, and the company pretty much tries to measure what their output, their carbon footprint is. What do you send to the receptacles? What do you throw away? Do you recycle enough? Are you saving as much as you can? Do your trucks have the right filters and economies on them?
Transportation costs.
Yeah, so
Energy costs.
the whole goal is to become to get the smallest carbon footprint, being that you're recycling the highest amount you're capable of recycling. You're throwing around
carbon neutral is the goal.
Yeah, to not be throwing anything away and not be using landfills, to not be creating toxins in the environment.
Well, in the building industry, using wood is carbon is a positive carbon footprint because the wood actually retains the carbon. It got out of the atmosphere.
Really?
Yeah. Matter of fact, when you burn wood, think about this in the chemical reaction. When you burn wood, what is left over?
Charcoal and ash.
What's charcoal?
It's petrified wood.
It's carbon.
Yeah.
That's the carbon that tree sucked out of the air.
Interesting. Just remember, build things with wood.
Well, they were saying there were these architects that were doing these amazing designs where they would have like continuous sheets of wood. Stuff you couldn't really do normally with other materials you can do with wood. So imagine like having a beam that goes from the bottom to the top all the way to the 5, 6 story building with one wall that's continuous wood. That's pretty wild, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it has interesting aspects to it.
You could laminate it, you could bend it, you could steam it, you can put curves on it.
Do you know if you put wood underwater, it will last almost forever?
Because it takes the oxygen away.
No, it's the composition of the wood. When it's in water, it doesn't deteriorate.
Yeah, but I think it has to be cold water. No.
I forget. I forget the exact thing. It was something about why certain things in the water are built with wood pylons, and it's that
Oh,
they don't deteriorate. They take a much longer time to deteriorate because they're actually built out of very moist fibers that make the wood. So as long as you don't dry the wood out and then put it in the water, it already has the moisture, so it repels
we
opposing
have we
moisture.
have we have stuff down here in the water, worms and whatnot that'll bore through wood.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm
you
not
know,
saying that other
I
things
always
won't.
I always thought wood. I always thought wood was cheap and strong
Yeah. Well, I don't know about
compared
cheap
to
anymore. That's
compare.
changing.
Well, I mean, compared to like an engineered cement pour, I would think a wood piling is cheaper than a cement piling.
Honestly, I think cement, though I do know how to work with it. Honestly, as someone who knows a little bit about design and building things and constructing things from different angles, I think cement is probably one of our worst modern inventions for longevity of construction.
Well, I mean, ask the Romans.
No, I think our modern cement
Oh,
is
our
one
modern
of
cement.
the
Yeah.
worst. If you go
Well,
back 100 plus years, cement that was made with blood holds together for hundreds of years. Cement made the way we make it today holds together for 15, maybe
down
20.
here, down here in Miami, most of the building was done post World War II. So you had a huge building surge down here. You have a lot of houses that were built in the early 50s to like the mid to later 50s. There was so much sand being used, they pulled it right off the beach. They didn't even wash it. So what ended up happening when they came to cement pours, the beams, the salt comes out of the cement and reacts with
Yep.
the rebar,
It
and it'll make
oxidizes
the
the metal
rebar
inside the concrete.
expand and rust. And when that happens, it pushes and cracks the cement out. So it's funny. If it was pure cement, which has its own certain amount of strength, of course, the rebar makes it that much stronger. But it's the rebar that's also the Achilles heel for longevity.
Well, at the same time, when you look at the way Romans, and this is funny, you guys may not believe me, but it's very true. The Romans did use things like lye, but they also used blood. If they didn't use human blood, they used livestock blood, and they'd mix it in with cement because of the congealing properties of blood. They'd mix in a whole bunch of different stuff, and you think the bricks that they made 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000 years ago in a lot of buildings are still standing, and they're still pristine.
Well, yeah, a lot of the what's it called? The Colosseum. A lot of that is poured cement from
Right.
Rome.
So how
Uh,
is it we've advanced in everything, but the buildings we build have higher structural stability, but I don't expect them to last anything near the expectancy of
right.
something like the Colosseum. Because of the grade of concrete we're using, we've decided to change everything. Not saying that we need to use livestock blood, but maybe it's a use for livestock blood.
We get used to certain ideas and we just go through the motions.
Right.
But nobody really looks into the future. Nobody. I mean, in Japan, it's noted that they look 100 years into the future, whereas companies here barely look 20 years into the future.
Absolutely. They're actually looking, okay, how can we get the next product out? We don't care that we're updating it in 3 years. How do we get the next one out? And that, I guess, as much as I love capitalism, I guess that could be an argument against it, is to thrive, to keep progressing and keep advancing and keep incoming, even at a high level.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily progressing or advancing, but it's all about the income.
Well,
I told you
you can only achieve so much income from one line.
I told you the story about General Motors buying up all these light rails in all the little towns in the Midwest.
Yeah.
You know why they did that, right?
I forget. We were talking about that a couple months ago.
They bought up perfectly good light rail systems that were working great, that the public loved. They tore up the tracks and chopped them all up so they could sell the city buses.
Yes. See, and that's capitalism at its best and worst. I'm not saying capitalism is bad, but at the same time, under a monarchy or under
it only looks out for itself.
Yeah,
that's all it does.
Which is why some government control isn't unfeasible. However, it's managing.
If anything, if it's for the public good, or if it's for the future, or if it's for efficiency, then it's a good thing. I mean, you know, cafe standards in the 70s, when the government stepped in and said, listen, Detroit, you're building these boats. They're 3 tons. They're 16 feet long. You know, gas is never going back to 35 cents a gallon. You need to now start building cars more efficiently. Now we have cars that are sold all over the world because they're unbelievably efficient.
Mm-hmm.
We have Corvettes that not only haul ass, but they get 23 miles to the gallon doing it.
Although 23 is kind of low these days. Not for a Corvette, but just saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot better than 7.
All right, so here's a thought I have, and this is how hard it is for me to think through a concept. I don't agree with government control. I agree with the thought processes of you should be able to do what you want so long as you're not harming another person, which insinuates that government shouldn't have control over the things they do.
Okay,
however,
you're a builder, right?
Yeah.
Do you think we need building codes?
Yes.
Well, why? That's government stepping in.
Because for instance, again, I know you weren't here earlier, but I just put a hot water system in, and I had to bring the system up to code, adding sedimentary trap, emergency pressure release valves, one-way flow valves, shutoffs, extra system components.
Wasn't that a lot of extra expense?
Yeah, because most of those cost more than your regular connectors.
So you're agreeing with me that you shouldn't have had to do all that.
You're right. I shouldn't. It seems like a frustrating reason. However, being a smart person, I looked into, do I have to and why? And I realized that you need a sedimentary trap so that dust and particles don't get into the heater. And because it's such a high-intensity heater, if something gets in there, it could combust quickly and expand the heater, and the heater's not built for that.
I see. So it's a safety issue.
Right. And then the same thing with the pressure release valve. If, let's say, the heater doesn't shut off fast enough and the water keeps increasing in temperature to a point where it raises the pressure inside, the emergency release valve will prevent the unit from exploding.
Right.
And I understand the reasons for all of them. I don't like it, but I understand it. So I try to apply that same concept to things I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't like it. Let me understand it before I figure it out. But there has to be a balance.
Did you see the conversation with Joe Rogan and what's his name, the interviewer? He's soft spoken, sort of middle of the road. He has an interview show on YouTube.
Oh, the gay one. That was
gay
that was wrong. The one who had Blair White and Candace Owens.
Yeah. What's his name?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I don't know it off the top of my head. I know who you're talking about.
Well, he's pretty much a libertarian, and he was talking to Joe Rogan, and he started talking about how builders don't need all these building codes because you would think a builder would want to build the best house that they can build. And Joe Rogan was like, whoa, wait a second. There's a reason for building codes because builders are known. Some builders may want to build for the future and build and put something there that'll last forever. But the majority of them will cut corners like you don't know.
Yeah. If this weren't my house, would I have taken the same care for the job? Probably, because that's how I am. But I watched contractors come in and work on my house and not care the same way I do about the end result of the job and how it looks and how it feels. And
so anyways, yeah, that's. I mean, there's an argument for both sides. Yes, you know, the government. I think if you're going to have a government, having a regulatory body looking over safety and health and welfare of its citizens isn't necessarily a bad thing. Holding big major corporations to task when it comes to pollution, when it comes to stuff they screw up on. At the same time, there should also be a group of people going through regulations, making sure regulations are written the right way, making sure there's no loopholes, making sure they're not outdated, making sure that something newer hasn't come along and made the entire thing redundant.
Yeah, because if I got a collection of 7 dildos and I move to Texas, I'm getting arrested.
There you go.
Because of an old law that says you can't have 6 or more dildos in Texas. Well, I would be the asshole that would go down to Texas.
I would think looking at Texas, there would be a hell of a lot more than 6.
I would be the asshole that would go to Texas and buy 7 in one shop and then stand outside with them on a table and go, "Arrest me!" What are you doing? Just displaying. Give them away at the end of the day.
So, yeah, I mean...
We do need to discuss it further. There is a lot in global warming, even though we just steered away from it. But that would make a nice show. I could start working on that.
I mean, you know, a lot of that whole list from the EU on all the people that have signed into the whole idea of it. You know, the 1,500 they always mention. 1,500 scientists. A lot of those people have asked for their names to be removed from that list, and they won't do it. A lot of those people aren't even scientists. Again, when it comes to agreement on something, when it comes to science, that isn't necessarily, a proof positive.
Consensus isn't proof. Yeah, right. I see what you're saying. The lone dildo. Rednecks are throwing gays off buildings. Are they? I thought that was the Muslims. Oops. Shit. Banned from YouTube. Damn. Let's start a dildo company called Dillcox. And things. Dillcox. Put him. Bad faith YouTube scientist. Bad! What else is there to discuss? We need to get some more ideas together. I remember one of our viewers, I want to say Shelly, I don't think she's here today. Maybe it was Shelly or somebody else had a friend or a boyfriend.
Was it a Sora Luna?
Was it Sora Luna? Somebody has an other half that had one of our previous topics. I want to say the Blue Planet Project. I've been waiting for a response to discuss doing a second show on Blue Planet. We should do some research and do a second show on QAnon coming up here.
Okay.
We just need to get some ideas, guys. Not that we're running low. We could always cover deeper or cover more. And I've been looking at some thoughts from various things I've been looking at from history. So,
we all know now that JFK wasn't shot by a lone gunman.
She was shot from the sewer grate.
Right, but yeah, a team shot him.
It was a conspiracy. I need to record that and play it on a loop in the background.
It's no theory anymore, though. I mean, the whole damn Kennedy family has been assassinated. You heard about the Robert Kennedy, right?
I probably have and just forgot.
Sirhan supposedly shot him, right?
Yeah, I think.
With a gun that had only 6 shots in it, yet there were 12 bullet holes in the room. He was standing in front of him, yet Robert Kennedy was shot from behind.
Oh, if we want to go deep into conspiracies, apparently Princess Diana was a murder, not an accident.
Oh yeah, we know that too.
She
was alive after the accident. She was alive, and she was in that ambulance, and that ambulance didn't leave the scene for like 45 minutes.
That's sometimes normal, depending on the injuries. They won't move until they get them to a stable position in order to be able to bounce them around.
Right.
Sometimes, a lot of times that happens. I've been watching videos where you see the ambulance sit there and render certain aid before they move for the hospital.
Yep.
In her case, I don't understand why, because you'd think they would move her via helicopter, air unit, or something like that, being royalty.
Well,
even
yeah,
in that time.
Right. No matter what, you would think getting her to the hospital would be ultimate importance.
Unless, and this sometimes happened, especially in 2000s, where
you
would check somebody's injuries, especially in car accidents. You would check someone's injuries, and they might have a cut on their wrist and a slice on their shoulder and a small gash on their head. And then, like 3 or 4 hours later, internal bleeding from, an organ that was punctured would slowly kill them, but you wouldn't see that on triage.
But at some point, you got to get them to the hospital.
Right, unless you absolutely thinking you're dealing with a triage condition.
Drive slow, avoid the potholes, and get her to the hospital.
But again, if she only had a couple of scratches, that was the era where we started realizing that certain accidents created worse injuries depending on the situation.
Supposedly the driver wasn't drunk. He never even really drank. The witness of it was found in a dead car on a military, ammo range?
I'm going to say hello to TC and Dong Wrangler. Welcome. But yeah, we could honestly go through conspiracies and shootings and now take recent facts that have been released from the U.S. government and explain away why these aren't conspiracies. But then legitimizing the fact that the government had a conspiracy over something that happened in the past legitimizes the ability for the government to have current or outstanding conspiracies that we may or may not have any inkling about.
The whole term conspiracy theory is now used as a term to call a person crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know where that came from? You know where that came from?
I want to say it was a book somebody wrote early 2000s. I was watching.
The CIA in 67 wanted people to equate insanity or being crazy with conspiracy theory. They set that in motion.
Wouldn't you believe it more from the FBI than the CIA, though?
Not really.
And that's just me. Not that I dislike the FBI more than the CIA, but when you think about what Hoover did in the FBI, then
Oh, Hoover's no saint. The FBI is no saint. The FBI killed Dr. Martin Luther King.
Well, it goes way deeper than that. You've got manslaughter written by the FBI to try and capture somebody they didn't like. You've got Hoover doing government recordings illegally
Oh yeah.
because he wanted to use them against people. You've got him collecting information, files, and personal details on people and their family and keeping records of government officials, presidents,
Mm-hmm.
court justices. If
If
you want.
anybody, if anybody was a proof or a perfect example of how the deep state having a single person in a position of power for too much time, Hoover was a perfect example of that.
Oh, and then a wild fox puts this out. So compare this. Hell, Google keeps records for everything you do already. I think Google in 1 year has got more records than Hoover did his whole life.
Oh yeah. Well,
So take that into account.
did you know that the CIA gave Google and gave Facebook a huge amount of money?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we're the idiots that file on ourselves.
I got another one for you. I was watching a report either today or yesterday stating that Google and Facebook or Twitter or a couple of these large social media organizations are trying to lay down groundwork and cooperate with China and some of the new laws they put in to release all the information of people logging in and using certain resources and what's being done and said. And
That's
not only are they agreeing to follow these rules, but they're handing all information of all users from their area using the site to the government.
yeah, it's pretty depressing.
Incorporate that into a site that started in America with the freedom and ability to do things. On that same site, now take the measures that are allotted in a communist or socialist country where people are not allowed to do certain things. And then think to yourself that on that same site, just because you're in a different part of the site, that you're not going to see bleed over from the technology.
Well, you heard about that whole what is it, citizen grading over there?
Yeah, where if you report other
It's kind
people
of
for
like a
doing wrong
credit.
things, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a credit rating, but for attitude.
Yeah, I heard about that. And you get into looking at a Demolition Man society where you have to swear to get your toilet paper.
How do you use these seashells?
I have no idea still. I'm not using the seashells. I might pinch my ass the wrong way. It's going to hurt. Get a hair and ugh. Because China's going to take ours through italic or closed brackets. Discord. Okay, that spot. They're selling our data to the commie. Data? They're selling you to the commies? What's going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
I need some TP for my bunghole. I wanna just establish my worry between, and this is something I've said before on my show, on the game show, and everything, that the more we try to incorporate our values into other countries and adopt the values that they adhere to into what the company has to do, that company's not going to be able to keep the separation. It should be two separate companies. There
Math
should
power.
be, yeah. It. What was the way I heard it said is that you created a business in a country that allowed you to thrive and build your business to the greatest it could possibly be under the minor limits that we inhibit, and then turn around and move into a country that has a larger population but has such stricter limits, and you more than happily will go in and do that and abide by any rule they have, and then down talk this country.
Have you heard of Math Powerland?
No.
Let's see. Math is an actor known for The Badge, Flat Earth Conspiracy, Flat Earth, and Other Hot Potatoes.
Sometimes you have to worry when you're talking to people who are conspiracy theorists. And the worry, well, there's a few worries. Level 1 worry is that they're a complete moron. And they're just a moron. You're never going to get anywhere with them. Level 2 is they're somewhat intelligent. They just something isn't adding in their head, and you can't make it click for them. The next one is the one that completely understand everything, realize everything that's going on, and go, I'm so smart, I can be stupid. Watch this.
What isn't it? What's the saying? A smart person is one who can say I don't know everything.
Sure. I don't know that saying.
Something like that. So go ahead. It looks like it's an interesting topic if we want to address it. Math Powerland, a guy who says he worked for NASA, and it looks like he's a flat earther.
Oh, I think I heard. Yeah, he's reading stories to kids or something.
He wrote got a few movies out. He's got a whole bunch of movies out.
Did he? I think he's the one who wrote the children's book, and he was going around reading the children's book to kids on how we didn't really go on how it was all faked. And what? I want to say they were saying he was a former astronaut.
Yeah, I have a problem with that whole we didn't go there. Although there are some very interesting pictures where I have to say, maybe the reason there isn't a thrust hole underneath the lander is because just so happens that they parked themselves right on top of a very flat rock. I don't know. That would explain the lack of a
So you have to wonder, though. You really do. It's a lower atmospheric quality. You've got lower pressure. You've got lower mass on the planet, causing a lower gravitational pull. You've got no real climatary winds blowing on the planet. So the dust really doesn't have a reason to pick up or move. However, solar winds and drafts would inevitably move dust across the planet.
Well, I mean, a rocket engine would move dust,
right.
Because
so
blast.
If, again, depends on what kind of rocket engine you're doing. If they didn't know what to account for on surface level, then you're going to try and lift off against atmosphere, which means they're going to put the engine higher on the lifter, which reduces the amount of push against the ground, and it puts the push against the atmosphere. And if it takes a third as much thrust to remove yourself from the moon as from Earth, then a hardened sedimentary area should stay settled.
The bottom part stayed behind. The top part went back up. The bottom part has that big rocket engine right in the bottom, in between all the four legs. The landing engine, the one that they almost ran out of fuel with.
Right, but the lifter, the one that they left with, the thrusters were on the top of the unit, not the bottom.
Right. They left most of the weight behind them.
Right. But when they left, the thrusters to lift off of the moon were closer to the top of the ship. The thrusters to land were at the bottom.
Right.
So that's less push on the ground. And again...
But the picture we're talking about is the picture of him, of them tooling around and looking underneath the lander and not seeing a crater. That's the picture I'm talking about. And that does leave a big hanging question, but it could be answered by a very flat, smooth stone.
Yeah, well, heavy enough sedimentary process would do that. A long-term area being pressed in by gravity with no movement would slowly allow it to compress to a set state or a hardened rock state. And don't we test for that?
Pardon?
Don't we test for that using sonar? Haven't we bounced waves off the moon and found softer and harder areas and determined where to land based on those readings? So it would only...
I mean, they can only listen. It was a crapshoot back then. It was a crapshoot, even if they were going to land. The where I think the whole conspiracy and comes into play is, I do think there may have been some fake shots, but I think those fake shots were just insurance, just in case it didn't work out. We could show the world that we did succeed.
Well, not so much that we
I think
succeeded, but that we beat the Russians. We
and
beat the
right,
Ruskies.
we beat the Russians and we succeeded. The whole point is, I think those are the pictures that have leaked out, and that's where this is all coming from.
All right, so you're gonna, and then well, we've got way off topic. We'll give this no more than 20 minutes, but let's aim for 5. To give validity, if you want to think that, see, 30 years ago or 50 years ago that we didn't go to the moon, then in 50 years, with all the ships and the satellites and everything we've sent off, you believe we still can't get to space.
Are we going into flat Earth? Space doesn't exist.
Then we
Remember?
broke something. Shouldn't we? We've
Planets
launched an awful lot of shit in the air, not to just break something.
Planets are just light fixtures on the dome.
With perfect mathematical constitutional equations that run through. Never mind. Oh.
What are you reading?
Me?
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm just. You have to admit, when you look at planetary readings and you look at rotational design, you can literally lay out a mathematical equation telling you where that planet's going to be in 10,000 years. And read that mathematical equation, know where it's going to be in 1,000 years, know where it's going to be in 100,000 years because of its progression and movement based on situational circumstances. You can, within a degree, get an idea of what's going to happen over time based on readings. So, if it was all a projection, that's an awful big, massive supercomputer taking into account mathematical arrays and readings that can be deciphered from around our circle.
Before there were supercomputers.
Correct. Q is running this whole project.
Q.
Squirrel porn.
Q clearance.
But I think at an hour and 45 minutes, this is probably one of my longer streams.
Well, it looks like the duct tape held.
The duct tape held. The show made it through. Good thing I bought a huge roll for my venting, so I have extra to spare to get through tonight. So, thanks everybody for joining us. I know it was kind of a ramble, a mishmash of things that just kind of stuck to the tape long enough to discuss. And Dad joined me.
A sock hop with sock puppets.
Yeah, where is Saki? I haven't seen Saki in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen Saki in a while either.
Did
Did he change his name?
I forget. I think he's changed it a few times. I don't know what it is right now. I miss Saki. He was funny in chat.
Saki to me.
Saki to the left, Saki to the right. Alright, but what do I have? No, let's not talk about butts. Lennox will come back and talk about farting again. I don't know where any of my music went. My sound effects are missing. All of my meters are gone. What did I do?
It's on the other roll.
Yeah, that's right. The sound effects aren't here. They're gone. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. There'll be a show on Monday. I might do something tomorrow. Maybe I'll mess around for a bit. Put a sock in it. That's right. Thanks everybody for joining us so much. Make sure on... Wait, where is the screen? Where is it? Make sure on your way out that you lick, stick, smack, bap. Hell, even fart on the buttons on your way out if that's what you want to do. But
and comment.
Something. Yeah, comment. Visit Dada's channel. Comment and watch it on his side so he gets a few views and catches up a little bit. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to hit that magic button that says goodbye.
Have a good Saturday.